Golden Lodge number 4, which is located in the corridors beneath Wiltshire Police Headquarters. The initiates, including Police Superintendent Stephen Nash of Devizes Police and his chief, Philip Wilkinson, the Wiltshire Police Crime Commissioner, they regularly indulge in ritual sacrifice of children under the age of 12 and regularly consume their flesh in ceremonies. So it's interesting to consider that all of this goes on underneath the Wiltshire Police Headquarters in Devizes. It's all very interesting to consider this. Indeed, this is all a carefully concealed Masonic secret. Indeed, it's all really quite disturbing that the local police in Devizes are regularly sacrificing babies and children and consuming their flesh. Indeed, this is true. This is happening. These are the people you entrust with your protection. And this is what they get up to. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, flashing back to 1947, one must consider the origins of the Roundway experiment. Indeed, the Roundway experiment was formed by a certain nexus of British intelligence operatives, Office of Strategic Services operatives, i.e. proto-CIA operatives, and Nazi psychiatrists, programmers, neuroscientists, and intelligence operatives. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the leader of this network was a German called Adolf Kramer, who was operative for a Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst faction, recently incorporated into British intelligence. So it's interesting to consider the overlaps between British intelligence and Nazi intelligence. Indeed, I've delineated before that British intelligence through Bank of England operatives and Nazi intelligence through Reichsbank operatives were instrumental in the formation of the National Association for Mental Health, which is now known in the UK as the National Institute for Mental Health. It's interesting to consider this overarching network and how important it has been to the history of psychiatry in the United Kingdom. Indeed, the National Association for Mental Health was very serious about giving lobotomies to patients that they considered difficult, and electroshock therapy was the order of the day. Indeed, I have been electroshocked numerous times during my incarcerations in various psychiatric facilities in the United Kingdom, not to mention the fact that my brain was sucked. I underwent brain sucking, utilizing a brain sucking device operated by operatives of the British Secret Service while I was incarcerated at Callington Road Psychiatric Facility in Bristol. My brain was sucked, and I therefore lost any memory of my exposures and the things I had done for 3 years. So it's interesting to consider between the autumn of 2021 and the autumn of 2024, I was unaware of exactly who I was, and the fact that I'd exposed Grenville Lodge number 1787 and Devizes Police. I was unaware of the fact that I had done these exposures. Indeed, the brain-sucking device basically made me forget who I was. Indeed, it was effectively a temporary lobotomy that was carried out on me by operatives of the British intelligence services. So it's interesting to consider this, the fact that I was locked in a psychiatric institution in a padded cell, given a chemical straitjacket, i.e. Agufase, which is a combination of haloperidol, lorazepam, and procyclidine. It took 8 days to take effect because I was so psychotic, and then they utilized a brain-sucking device on me to get me to forget what I'd done and what I'd exposed. Indeed, so I have more amnesia from various periods of my life than I need to. Indeed, this is why various intelligence operatives have taken advantage of me over the years, including Mossad operatives who are attempting to trick me that they are a network of intelligent Hebrews. which would appeal to my conscience. However, these are Sabbatean operatives, therefore they are Satanists, pretending to be the intelligent Hebrews that I speak of. Indeed, it's all very interesting to consider the nature of Sabbateanism and the involvement of Sabbateanism in the ceremonies underneath the Devizes police headquarters. Indeed, many of the ceremonies that take place there are of a Sabbatean origin. So it's interesting to consider also that the Low Booth family of Devizes are Sabbateans and engage in Sabbatean blood worship and blood sacrifice. So it's interesting to consider. Indeed, the daughter of the Low Booth family is attempting to organize a network of murderers to kill me here in Warminster. So it's interesting, these murderers are themselves operatives of Mossad-linked British security firms. So it's interesting indeed. These networks of British security firms are themselves interlinked with the South African mercenaries that I spoke of that operate as hitmen for Moonraker Lodge number 8747. This network of South African mercenaries have carried out several hundred murders for Moonraker Lodge number 8747, who are trying to protect the reputation of Devizes from any inquisitive minds that would be attempting to expose the Roundway experiment and the Devizes police ritual sacrifice rings. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the Low Booth family of Devizes are attempting to kill me. So it's all very interesting to consider. The Low Booths are Sabbateans and operatives of the British Crown. So it's all very interesting to note. Just a sec. There are many Sabbatean heritage Mossad cells posing as intelligent Hebrews, i.e. Itzhak Bentov style people, to cause confusion and attempt to basically confuse mental patients who are figuring out that they have a natural alignment with intelligent Hebrews and intelligent Slavs. So it's all very interesting to consider mental patients, i.e. those of the 20 to 30% of the mental patient population theorized by Itzhak Bentov to be of a higher level of consciousness and a higher stage of evolution than the remainder of society, are working out who their allies are in this Aryan endgame. Indeed, the Aryan agenda is to destroy intelligent Hebrews, intelligent Slavs, and intelligent mental patients. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, GRU operatives are wondering what I'm going to do with my life now that I'm targeted by Mossad and the British Crown. Indeed, it's interesting to consider this. I'm just going to carry on as normal and attempt to expose as many networks that interconnect with Devizes police as I possibly can. Indeed, it's all very interesting to note that various Devizes butchers have converted to the faith of Ishmael in an attempt to basically coordinate operations in their neighborhood with some sort of cover. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, Jack Mann of Devizes Police is attempting to coordinate a hit on me, utilizing a network of local bin men from Devizes and Warminster who have a problem with my opinions on the British Empire. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, I'm losing track of what I intended to talk about in this video by being distracted by the fact that all of these Devizes idiots are trying to coordinate hits on me. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the Moonraker Lodge number 8747 framework is basically that the Grand Master is a guy called Thomas Eyre. Originally, I thought it was a guy called Stephen Bridge, but it's actually a guy called Thomas Eyre. However, Stephen Bridge is his subaltern. Indeed, PC Ian Hughes of Devizes Police is an initiate of Moonraker Lodge number 8747 and partakes in Sabbatean ritual ceremonies and the consumption of baby's flesh. So it's very interesting to consider what goes on in the underground vaults beneath Moonraker Lodge number 8747. Indeed, in the early 90s, a paranoid schizophrenic named Benjamin set fire to Moonraker Lodge number 8747 and was subsequently killed by the Devizes townspeople. Indeed, one must remember the 76 martyrs, the 76 mental patients between the years of 1989 and 2001 who'd been victims of the Roundway experiment, who were attempting to expose the Roundway experiment, and came to a lot of interesting conclusions on Devizes as a location. Indeed, there are so many satanic ritual abuse rings and organ harvesting networks that interlink with Devizes, and indeed, a lot of this has to do with the history of Devizes being run by the Chesterfield cult in the 1600s. So it's interesting to note these networks now operating out of Devizes, such as the Labyrinth cult of Devizes Police and Die Blutordnung of the Waterrose and Sons Butchers, are inheritors of a tradition that comes from the Chesterfield cult, which has ruled Devizes since the 1600s. And the practices of the Chesterfield cult are still operative among the 49 elders of Devizes today, such as Police Superintendent Ed Giles of Devizes Police, who runs Rose's Ironmongers and is a key functionary and secretary for Devizes Police and the 49 elders of Devizes. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the 49 elders of Devizes and the Applin family patriarch Stephen Applin, who acts as the 50th elder, have decreed a fatwa on me, utilizing networks of robber barons. So it's interesting to consider that various corporate interests in Devizes are all aligned for my destruction before this creepypasta takes off on the internet. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, Devizes Police have issued a statement recently warning people not to approach me. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, I've noticed this in my current location, that people have been told not to approach me by the local police precincts. So it's all very interesting indeed. The Roundway experiment, as I've stated, began in 1947 and is operative for the programming and manipulation of mental patients and various homeless people who are kidnapped throughout the country and the United States. Indeed, the majority of homeless people that go missing in the United States are taken to Devizes by ship and are then programmed and used in sacrificial ceremonies by Devizes Police and Waterrose and Sons Butcher Shop butchers. So it's all very interesting to consider this enormous international human trafficking network that is being run under the watchful eye of Wiltshire Police Headquarters and the Wiltshire Police Head Crime Commissioner, Philip Wilkinson. So it's interesting to consider this enormous human trafficking and ritual sacrifice network that is being run, interconnecting with Waterrose and Sons Butcher's Shop organ harvesting network. So it's all very interesting to consider. The Low Booth family of Devizes are instrumental in these operations, which is very interesting considering their Sabbatean heritage and their natural inclinations towards Mossad operations. So it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, Mossad oversee a lot of the organ trade in Britain, Europe, and the Middle East. Indeed, they also oversee large percentages of the drugs trade in the United Kingdom and the United States, often operating through proxies such as the Albanian mob. who are technically the British police's pet project, but interconnect with the Mossad through networks of Bektashi techies, of whom the majority of Albanian mob bosses are initiates of, and Sabbatai and Dolme connections. It is interesting to note that Sabbatai Zevi is buried in an ethnic Albanian majority town in Montenegro called Ulcin. So it's very interesting to note all of these interconnectivities when analysing this. Indeed, the British intelligence services have seriously screwed up my brain. They attempted to utilise me originally as a schizophrenic super spy, and this went wrong because I was prone to breaking out my programming. So eventually they programmed me as a schizophrenic ghost, i.e. someone to carry out operations that would suit the intelligence services but would be inimical to the moral code of the schizophrenic. So it's interesting to consider I was programmed with Nazi fetishist ideology when I'm not a Nazi. So it's also interesting to consider if you see the patterns of behavior over the course of the last 12 years, you can see that I was mind control programmed by networks of British intelligence and brainwashed by certain far-right operatives who were themselves employed by Special Branch and the British security services, such as Troy Southgate, who was an operative of the British police, Mossad, MI5, and British Freemasonry. So it's all very, very interesting to consider. Sorry about this. It's all very strange. And all of this really does come under the designation high strangeness, as I'm witnessing a lot of paranormal entities at the moment, who I believe are being implanted in my consciousness by British police operatives, who are gang stalkers, basically projecting the images at me via manipulated psychotronic beams. Indeed, this ongoing harassment by the British police very much resembles the Stasi tactics of the Cold War. So it's interesting to consider that the British police are prepared to radiate and harass a mental patient simply for speaking out about the atrocities and the organ harvesting coordinated by Devizes police operatives. So it's all very interesting to consider the lengths that the British police will go to protect their reputation. Indeed, the reason why the majority of the locals in Warminster do not like me is because of my opinions on the police force. Indeed, the police force are supposedly there to serve and protect the population, but instead they target, humiliate, and adopt positions that are against the vulnerable. So it's very interesting to consider I delineated the fact that the British police oversee the rape gangs and trafficking rings. So it's all very, very interesting to consider what the British police are really up to with your tax money. So it's all very strange. Indeed, the Roundway experiment is guarded by the Wiltshire Police Headquarters. Indeed, the Wiltshire Police Headquarters was built in Devizes specifically to protect the Roundway experiment from exposure. Indeed, the Wiltshire Police Headquarters in Devizes was built in the 1960s. The Roundway experiment began in the 40s, and there were several attempts by paranoid schizophrenics in the 50s and early 60s to expose the mind control operations going on at Roundway Asylum. And indeed, so the British police responded by building the Wiltshire Police Headquarters in Devizes to protect for all time the Roundway experiment from exposure. Indeed, the people exposing the Roundway experiment have all themselves been paranoid schizophrenics and targeted individuals, victims of Roundway asylum mind gate mind control programs overseen by MI6 and Defense Intelligence. So it's all very interesting to consider. This is the truth about Devizes and about Wiltshire as a whole. The Roundway experiment began in 1947 in Devizes and continues to this day. Indeed, I am designated TF84 in my Roundway experiment programming, so it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, I'm going to leave it there now.